Well, Congressman Golden, you obviously wrote this op-ed that appeared yesterday. In it, you say that you think Donald Trump is going to win and, quote, I'm okay with that. What compelled you to write that, and why write it now?
Well, in this business, when big questions arise, the press, first of all, is going to try and make sure that you answer questions, and as you should, right? But like, I've never been someone who lets that kind of pressure force me to say things until I'm ready. And so over the weekend, as I was kind of thinking through, like, well, what do I have to say about this? The opinion piece is a reflection of what I think, and so.
Is it specifically a response to the debate?
Yeah, I didn't watch the debate, to be honest with you, but it was such a high amount of coverage, and honestly, it's what many I think people were talking about. Like, I went to an agricultural fair on Saturday, and almost anyone that came up to talk to me about politics asked me what I thought about the debate. So clearly it's what's on people's mind.
What did you say when they asked you?
I feel like you got to say something, right? I said, well, I didn't watch it, but I am, I'm thinking through this, and I'll let you know when I know what I think about it. And my opinion piece is exactly that. And what do I mean? Like, I think it's okay to say, like, we have a democratic process. We have an election system, and if people elect Donald Trump as president, I'm okay with that, as long as the election is carried out in a legal way, which I assume it will be, and that's part of what it means to be in a democracy. The people choose, and then you move forward and you deal with it. I made a case why I think it would be in the best interest of my constituents for them to reelect me, and have guardrails out there to keep a President Trump honest and on the straight and narrow. There are things he has promised to do that I actually agree with, and there's things that he would probably want to do that I would disagree with. But that check and balance, I think, is really important in any scenario.
What do you say to, I'll ask this as directly as I can, what do you say to those who see this as a incumbent Democratic congressman in a district that has gone twice for Donald Trump, appears to be, according to early polls, leaning that way again, that this is sort of a cynical political move?
Yeah, as long as I've been running for this office, Donald Trump was either the president or the presumptive winner of the district. It's never really been a problem for me, and not something that I'm worried about. What I don't like is this developing message that democracy will not survive the outcome of this election. It will, because of the American people. As I pointed out, on our 248th birthday here, it's because of the people and our love of freedom and our rights that democracy stands or falls. We hear this all the time. Every generation has to carry the torch and fight for their own freedoms and democracy. People like myself, some of us actually swore that oath to the Constitution and put on a uniform to do it. But we're not alone in this, and so no one's taking away our democracy unless we let them. And so that's not what I think the choice is, and I think that the American people deserve a better choice than that. We should be talking about the kitchen table issues that everyone is living and experiencing day in and day out.
You also wrote a lot about how you think Congress needs to basically be doing its job anyway, that Congress and the nation functions best when Congress is doing what it's supposed to do. You said checks and balance, that sort of thing.
Correct.
Do you think that's happening right now?
There's been a lot of talk about how the Republican majority has been dysfunctional, but it is true that they have been unable to pass the must-pass bills, like funding the government, avoiding defaults on our debt, those types of matters. Traditionally, in the House anyways, the majority handles that. But they haven't been able to do that, so they've had to rely on Democratic votes. So in some ways, it's almost like a power-sharing structure in the House right now. That's because of the extremes of the House Freedom Caucus, and it's got nothing to do with us. But I guess what I would say is, yes, the work that had to be done in this Congress has been done.
You've also said that you would not vote for Donald Trump. But you haven't said explicitly whether you will vote for Joe Biden, if he's assuming that he stays on the ticket. Will you vote for Joe Biden?
Yeah, I don't know that that is who is going to be on the ticket, to be honest with you. As I made clear, I think it's mostly a personal choice for him to make at this point. And that's a respect, by the way, for the system as it's played out to date. There's been primaries, voters have spoken. I don't like the idea of kind of party leaders trying to, move pieces around behind the scenes. I think it needs to be a more transparent kind of process if there were going to be a change. Essentially what I'm saying is it should be a choice that's made by Joe Biden and the American, in the light of day, a conversation with the American people.
So you're not calling on him to step aside at this point?
I'm saying that I am not going to vote for Donald Trump, and that I think if Joe Biden chooses to run, he's going to lose. And, that is what it is. I'm going to make the decision based upon who's on that ballot when I go to vote, just like everyone else.
So you're saying you haven't decided if you would vote for Biden if he is in fact still on the ballot in November?
Yeah, it's amazing how people try and pin you down to say stuff. I would put it this way: there have been people who have said that it is a legitimate question whether or not the president's performance last Thursday was just a one-off bad, performance or a condition. And the answer to that question is going to figure very largely in the minds of every single voter in this country, myself included. And I don't think we know the answer to that question right now. What I am saying is, if he runs, I think he's going to lose. And democracy will survive, and I've got important work to do representing the people of Maine's 2nd District in Congress, no matter who the president is.
And you said you're not concerned about, again, threat to democracy should in fact, and you believe he will, Donald Trump win. The Supreme Court just handed what appears to be an expansion of presidential powers with their decision in the immunity case. Do you agree with that decision from the Supreme Court? And what impact do you think it might have?
I think that you can understand scenarios where a president might, in the act of performing his official duties, make decisions in the interest of the country that one might, perceive could get him sideways with laws, and those are really tough questions. And it's an interesting question. I don't think that this decision settled the matter one way or the other. I think that they have provided a new framework and they've kicked it back down to the lower courts. So rather than rush to judgment about whether or not this was a harmful or a strengthening type of decision, let's wait and see how the courts now apply this new standard that's been laid out by this decision. So to answer your question, I don't know. I'm not a constitutional law officer. I don't have a degree in the law, but I am able to understand why sometimes a president might need civil or even criminal immunity, and obviously there has got to be a limit to that as well. Some of the hypothetical what-ifs that I have heard people talking about in the last 24 hours after this decision, I think are a little bit far, reaching and over the top, and unlikely to happen. And I think if it did happen, the system would respond to it and deal with it.
So it sounds like fundamentally, and this is going back to your op-ed, fundamentally you believe in the strength of the American people, the strength of our laws, our Constitution, and regardless of the players on the field, that system is what will prevail and stay strong.
Our country is great because of who we are, all of us, the American people, in the cumulative. It's never been a nation of just individual leaders that made us great. They can make tough decisions, and they can make good decisions and bad decisions. But when it comes to the things that have allowed this country to thrive and survive, they could never successfully do it without the American people.
Anything else that I didn't think to ask you about your op-ed, about what you wrote, about how you plan to conduct your campaign that you'd like to say right now?
I think it's obvious that I want to go on being the representative for the people of Maine's 2nd District. I laid out a clear argument that they have a lot at stake, from protecting access to the Affordable Care Act, reminding them it was the GOP majority who went after that the last time you gave them full control in Washington. Nothing's changed in that regard. The 2017 tax cuts are going to expire next year. I think we should extend them for the middle class, obviously, but I don't think we should extend them for the millionaires and billionaires who get the biggest tax breaks from that law. So I think that you want someone like me there who's going to say, look, I'll work with whoever's in the White House, but I'm going to be pursuing our interests, not loyal to any specific party agenda.
I also did review your voting record. According to congressional record, you vote with your fellow Democrats and President Biden, actually the least of any Democratic member of Congress.
That is correct.
Do you get
the super PAC ads are going to try and tell people that's not true, but it's true. My voting record is my voting record, and I vote against. I have voted against the Biden administration more than any other Democrat in the House, and I vote against my own party more than any other, and I think that's a strength. I'm proud of that. And by the way, I think I get to do that because I represent such a wonderful, diverse in opinion, political opinion community. I think that's a good thing. I hear all the time from colleagues that say that split ticket voting is a thing of the past, and yet Maine too almost seems to specialize in it, and I think that's good. So, thank you is what I would say to my constituency. It gives me the kind of space I need to be thoughtful in choosing how to exercise my vote, which I cast on behalf of them.
Again, you worked, or at least you called on OSHA earlier this year to extend a comment period when it comes to these firefighting rules. That could have a dramatic impact, frankly, on Maine's rural firefighting districts especially. They did extend that comment period, but it's about to expire again. Are you concerned about, first of all, the fundamental rulemaking that's happening? How important is it, and how important is it to make sure that every firefighting community in Maine that wants to respond has had a chance to do so?
Yeah, I guess I would say that I was really pleased to advocate for an extension the first time around. I always think short kind of runways for comment periods is wrong and kind of flies in the face of the intent of the law. And how you're supposed to proceed on rules and guideline making in the executive branch. By the way, we're kind of talking about a Supreme Court ruling in a way, recent one, Chevron, right?
The Chevron ruling, yeah.
And yeah, I think the executive sometimes is too expansive in their pursuit of new rules and changes using existing law. But so always good to have more commenting period. But based upon the feedback I've received from it feels like every volunteer fire department out there, I feel really confident saying it's a bad rule and it would be bad for Maine, and I hope that the administration will reconsider, in part because there's been more time for people to weigh in and explain, here's why this won't work, how this won't work for us. One thing that I don't know if you can edit or not, but just getting back to the question of who will I vote for if not for Donald Trump? This is the tension of the moment that I think everyone who's not automatically already in the bag for one person or the other. This is the tension that they are feeling themselves. So it's not just that it's hard for me to answer that question, will you vote for Joe Biden if he's the nominee and Donald Trump is the nominee or not? This is a hard question for many people to answer. There's kind of like a joke flying around on social media where someone says to an undecided voter about this presidential election, gun to your head, you have 1 second, who will you vote for, Joe Biden or Donald Trump? The person just freezes. It sums up well what I think the electorate is feeling out there. I feel really strongly this is the worst presidential choice that's been put forward for the American people in my entire life. And so I think people wish that there were other options, and it's not a foregone conclusion that there won't be, but right now, this is who's on the ballot in Maine. There are other people trying to get onto the ballot still. I supported the right of no labels to have ballot access in this state. They have chosen to pull down their third-party ticket. So be it. That was their choice. But I'm being honest when I say I don't intend to vote for Donald Trump. His character is not the character I want leading this nation or being a role model to my children about what a good leader, should be in regards to like their character and spirit. But I don't know yet who I would vote for if the choice is between these two people. And for some people, the answer might very well be they're not going to vote, and that's unfortunate. We can do better than this.